Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 393. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Matt.
Hey, what is happening?
Believe it or not next week, but I believe the week after, should nothing change, Connor might actually be on the show. I know it's shocking. It's a monumental, earth-shattering shift in dynamics, but he might actually be here for an episode in a couple of weeks. We'll see if he's read his comics. Although he has been catching up, actually. I think he's been mentioning he's been catching up. But
and I would love for him to come in and just only with the delay from his comics membership. I forget what the app's called for DC.
Infinite.
Yeah, with Infinite, and he's only up to date with Infinite, so that's what he starts to cover. It would be so funny.
Well, he still has a Patreon book of Red Hood during the Batman Catwoman Gotham War. So
oh boy,
that's out of date he is right now. But yeah, this is a DC Comics podcast, everyone. We get together and we talk about these DC books. It is a week 5, which means notoriously it's going to be a weird week with kind of a hodgepodge of annuals and other things. But here's what's coming up on the show today. We have Titans Beast World issue 6, Batman and Robin 2024 annual, Batman Superman World's Finest 2024 annual. We have a news story in the Trinity special, which we both ended up reading. We didn't even agree to, we just kind of both did. We'll talk about that and whatnot. And we also have Batman Off-World issue 3. Plus, I got a Patreon book. I'll be talking about American Vampire Second Cycle issue 4. So that is what's coming up on the show this week. I mean, honestly, page count wise, it was kind of a normal week of reading because, you know, enough of the books were 40 pages versus the typical 20 that I don't think it actually made that much difference in terms of my reading time. But still, weird week. We'll get into it. We'll get into the nitty gritty. There's a little bit of news to talk about, and of course, as we always do, we will start with Matt's absolute favorite segment of the show, which is the ComiXology, or formerly known as the ComiXology Top 10. So, we'll look at Tuesday first. How are you, Matt? I should be nice.
I'm okay. I'm still recovering from my flu. I'm pretty sure that's what it was last week. We recorded early, and then I got hit immediately with shivers and sweats, and it was terrible.
Oh yeah, we did Friday last week, didn't we? I was like, what do you mean early? We didn't do early last week.
We did.
It was Friday.
Yeah. And I still try to go play football, which was a massive mistake. And yeah, so prolonged it, missed a couple days of work, which I never do. So, and I've been slowly recovering. But yes, so having no books this week, you know, really, really worked to my advantage.
Yes, you got through the Matt-apocalypse and left to tell a tale.
Barely.
Yeah, no. I've still been watching movies, but I slowed down a little bit this week. I actually played a video game for a few hours yesterday.
Ooh.
So, my 8 to 10 movies a week streak might be finally calming down a little bit. I might only get 6 or 7 this week, so.
Oh yeah. No!
We'll see. We'll see how it is by the end of the week.
How are you? Whenever you watch The Boy 2 again?
Oh, okay. Well, there was a stream at Christmas, and there was a goal that if we hit a certain amount, me and Tim would do a commentary for The Boy. So I watched The Boy.
Oh, it
with
was
Tim.
a commentary. Okay, yeah. I didn't realize it was for commentary.
Yeah.
So
I still watched it. It still counts.
Yeah. But at least you get to bag on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's fine.
So that's done. That's dusted. It's out of the way.
And you got to watch it with Tim. To which, do we still know if he actually likes it, or this is just a long-term goof?
If it's a bit, then he is committed to the bit. Seriously. The amount of times the commentary just turned into him going, "Oh, this bit's so good," or this bit coming up. I'm so excited. Like, there was a lot of that going on.
Okay.
So
he's committed then, because I can't believe anybody likes that movie as much as he claims to. I don't think the director and writer like it as much as Tim likes it.
There's probably some truth in that.
Yeah, you know.
In fact, one of the first things he said was he pointed out one of the other actors in the movie is known for being in Hellboy, and sure enough, he was right. He was in Hellboy.
Oh, Timmy. Oh, Timmy, oh, Timmy, oh, Timmy.
So that might be why he likes it. He may just like it because of someone
Yeah.
at it from Hellboy.
I don't know if it's still up, but we covered the latest Hellboy. I forget who directed that one. But it was with David Harbour
Oh,
as the
Neil Marshall
titular.
directed that.
Danielle Marshall. And I remember us just going in on how horrible that movie was.
Oh, it was terrible, yeah.
And we get to the end, and even though Tim is like, yeah, it wasn't that good, I tried to enjoy it. That guy still gave it 10 stars.
Yeah, and apparently they're making a new Hellboy movie. Like Tim just casually mentioned, oh, they're working on a new Hellboy. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're after the last disaster, they're making another one. But apparently, he's hopeful for it. So
is it still David Harbour, or have they moved on to yet another?
Someone else, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah, apparently Mike Mignola's involved in the writing or something. So Tim's hopeful. I don't want to break his heart, but he'll probably like it no matter how shit it is.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like Hellboy is one of those properties that might just be better in the comics because they've tried. I mean, the animated movies that I've seen were decent, but those were done with Guillermo del Toro, and nothing against those Guillermo del Toro movies. They're not exactly, five-star classics.
I read the first story or two of Hellboy, and I thought they were pretty good, the comics. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that stuck out to me is just how good the tone was. It felt kind of dark and broody. And it's just something that none of the movies, because you have to have some big red dude walking around, it just doesn't work in live action in quite the same way. So,
but hey, whatever floats Tim's goat,
oh yes, I wish him no ill will. He can enjoy his crappy Hellboy all he wants.
That said, I did finally watch Killers of the Flower Moon.
All
on Monday.
3.5 hours of it.
Oh, no, I don't have to ever do that again. So we're good. Nothing. I thought Lily Gladstone was really good. I thought, I thought Leo was fine. I don't understand the people that have claimed this is the greatest movie of Scorsese's.
There's lots of good in it, right? And obviously there's good performances, there's good direction. But I think there had to be a choice, right? There had to be a choice where either... Because some of it still felt rushed to me, bizarrely, because there were so many characters and details that they just kind of flew through because they had to get through the whole story. I think you have to make a choice. You either simplify it, get it down to a movie, right? Because it's 3.5 hours, so cut an hour out of it, right? Simplify the story so that it works in 2 or 2.5 hours. I'll even give you 2.5. I'm nice like that. Yeah. But you either do that, or if you're so determined to be authentic and try and tell it, as close to historically accurate as you can, then that's the point where you should have been like, well, let's do a 10-part series instead, because 10 1-hour chunks might have served it better than the 3.5-hour experience that they gave us.
Yeah, because I feel like we don't even get the Osage peoples. Like, we get them a little bit, but this was something that really impacted their community, and we don't get to spend tons of time with them, And I feel like if they had expanded it a little bit, we could have, and a lot of those stuff would have really hit home more. And from what I understand with the book, it's a lot of the stuff is from the Osage people's point of view, right? So Scorsese took it, does what Scorsese does, or look how terrible these white men are, and look, I mean, think about it.
That's his
Wall
shtick,
Street,
he's good at doing that.
And I get it, and he does that very, very, very well. De Niro is very hateable through it, and it is a different side of De Niro, because he's kind of this quiet guy in it that's doing very terrible things. But yeah, I got through it. I watched it. I can knock it off the list, but I won't say that I enjoyed it. It's a very good movie that I did not enjoy. Now, comparatively, because they're up for a lot of the same awards, something like Oppenheimer, which I was kind of not resistant to, but I was like, man, there's no way it's as good as everybody's saying, right? I watched that. That movie has stuck with me. There's not a day since I've watched it that I haven't thought about something from that movie, which is weird considering that it's Nolan, and the bag on Nolan is, he doesn't, he's a very good director, but he's very cold. But there are very big emotional beats in that movie that I think about often. And yeah, that I didn't realize it would take Killers of the Flower Moon for me to realize that. So, props to that.
Oh yeah, I liked Oppenheimer a lot. You should check out Past Lives. Watch Past Lives, Matt.
That Past Lives on the list. The Holdovers is on the list, and Poor Things. So those are the ones.
I recommend all three of those. Yes.
Yes. So those are there. Those are on the the Academy Award list movies. Holdovers was already on there. We just I could watch Killers of the Flower Moon or Holdovers. I feel like I made the wrong decision.
I mean, you could put it this way: you got the long one out the way, so now you can look forward to the other one.
Yes, true. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. So I got that movie watched, and then it's just been trying to get back into reading comics, which is super tough right now because DC has to keep releasing. And this was a nice quiet week, but they're putting out too much stuff that I want to read. And I know it's a unique problem. But...
Actually, I mean, this neatly gets us back out of the topic of DC, but I was looking ahead.
Yep.
I don't think the next 3 months, give or take, is that busy. It's actually quite quiet. There's not a lot of new issue ones for a little, because a few things are ending, but there's not a lot of issue ones launching the next 3 months. Good. I suspect when we hit May and the summer events kick in, and that'll be where you get a lot of those numbers are made back up. But there is... it does seem like a quiet few months ahead, just on average. So
that's good because I have a stack of other things that aren't DC that I need to get to because I feel like a fraud at this point. When people ask me what's good to read, and I get to which I did get to recommend Ram V Swamp Thing to a friend, and he ordered all 3 trades because he wanted to read it now.
Good.
Yeah. So that was a nice thing, but it's. Do you guys like superhero books? Because I'm reading a lot of those.
I mean, you're on a DC show. You should be well read in the DC stuff.
100% I am, but not everybody's looking for weekly, I can recommend the Action Comics, the Philip Kennedy Johnson run, and stuff, but I don't know if that's going to be everybody's bag. So, or definitely I've been recommending Human Target, because that's definitely more on the less, there's superheroes in it, but it's not a superhero book. It's very much a tale of mortality and all of that. So, but yeah, I feel like I'm at that point where I'm getting itchy to read other things that aren't superheroes, which is very weird to me because I've always waved that flag.
You just need a palate cleanser. I get it. You
need
something a little bit different. So I haven't read anything else yet, but I've still got that itch to read the Turtles comics, so I might start that soon. Nice. That'll be my project for a bit, and then if I do get through that, then I'll start looking at some other stuff. Something is Killing the Children's been on the to-do list for ages.
Yeah, I see. I started that. That's also sitting there. It's that, These Savage Shores, getting caught up on the other Tynan book. Why am I drawing Department of Truth? I'm halfway through that second trade still. It's been a minute. So, yeah, I think you're right. A palate cleanse I need to work that in, So. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into the ComiXology top 10, shall we? We'll look at Tuesday first because that's how they're split up. Matt, what do you think the number 1 book was from DC this week? As of right now on the Kindle Amazon rankings.
I'm going with Beast World 6.
It is Beast World 6. It was easy. Yes. I mean, it was an easy week to guess it, to be honest. Number 2 is World's Finest.
Sorry, my cat just came in wanting to weigh in, and I told her, you don't know anything about comics. You can't read.
That's what you think.
Yeah, true. She's probably in my books right now.
Yeah. Number 2 is World's Finest. Number 3 is the Trinity Special. Number 4 is Batman and Robin annual. Number 5 is Batman Off-World. Number 6 is Alan Scott Green Lantern. It's a shame that I wasn't into that because that'd have been a nice book on this week 5. Number 7 is DC Power 2024. That's the big one shot with all the different short stories. Number 8 is Power Girl Uncovered, and if we're getting an Uncovered in the top 10, it tells you there's not a lot of books left.
Yeah.
Because sure enough, right after that, we're into collections. We've got Batman Urban Legends Volume 2, I think that is. But it might even be higher than that. Let me click on it. I'll find out. I can't tell the number. Oh, it's Volume 6. Wait. Oh, I'm thinking of Brave and the Bold. That's why I'm thinking it's only in Volume 2. Oh, yeah, Urban Legends, is over. Yeah, yep. Fair enough, yeah. And then 10 is actually a Weird Science archives book from EC Comics. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, again, not a lot of books out on Tuesday. because DC tend to have fifth weeks where they have a fewer amount out. Whereas Marvel and some of the other companies don't really do that. They'll kind of just spread their books out throughout the month, which is why Wednesday is actually still pretty healthy looking. So, do you got a guess for Wednesday's number one?
So there's a new one that's glaring out, and so I'm just gonna take a shot and say it's Dead X-Men.
It is Dead X-Men, number one. Very good. Number two is Avengers Twilight, which is Chip Zdarsky on that. And Alex Ross, I mean, he may just put in the cover, though, because sometimes Amazon don't list the penciler second, annoyingly. Yeah, he's just the cover. Yeah, it's Daniel Acuna on the art on that.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Number three is Wolverine 42. Number four is Duke issue 2. That's the Joshua Williamson book. So, very good. Non-Marvel. Number 5 is Avengers Inc. Number 6 is Incredible Hulk. Number 7 is Power Rangers Unlimited. Number 8 is Marvel's Voices Legends. Number 9 is World Tree, issue 7. That's another Tynion book. Again, another non-Marvel. And then number 10 is Moon Man, issue 1, by Kyle Higgins. So, another non-Marvel. So, as much as I said that Marvel still have a lot of books out, maybe the fact that there's like 4 non-Marvel books in the top 10 does indicate that it was a bit lighter compared to a normal week, but I don't know. Maybe these other books are just doing well.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what World Tree was, because I know it's Tynion, but I've heard zero buzz around it.
Yeah.
So
it's got numbers in the 0.
Yeah.
Well, the O and the E's are a 0 and 3s, just in case that's affecting your search results.
yeah, so I just trying to figure out what that was just based off of number 7. But it seems like it's kind of like a spy kind of book, which is kind of different for Tynion, if that's what that is. So, but yeah, not a lot on here that's piquing my interest. I'll tell you that. Like, it's kind of funny that I figured out a hack to figuring out what sells over at Marvel, and so whatever the new X book is, But so all these other non-Marvel stuff popping up in there, and I think that's pretty healthy for the rest of the industry.
Yeah, that Power Rangers book's I don't know if it's a mini-series or what, but it's like it's spinning out of issue 116 of Power Rangers. I was just curious. And
Is that the $8 one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like it's a one-shot kind of deal.
Yeah, just the one shot. So no, cool. Yeah, not an exciting top 10 this week because it's a week 5. So I guess we'll leave it there and we'll move on to the bit of news we got this week. Movie news, that is, specifically. And that is, we got big casting for the DC universe. We got Supergirl has been cast as Matt's cat is scratching something.
Yep. So she's just being herself.
Yeah, I know that sound.
Scratching on the carpet.
So, Millie Alcock, is that how you say her name?
I believe so. I'm not familiar with her at all. So
it could be Alcock, I suppose.
Yeah.
But either way, she's an actress who was on the Game of Thrones spin-off, House of the Dragon, which I never saw because I don't like Game of Thrones. But she was in the shortlist because it was narrowed down to 2. I remember there had been stories last week about it being between her and someone else. She is officially Supergirl in the Women of Tomorrow movie that's being developed, which, maybe some of these movies will actually exist, unlike the last big batch that were announced. Maybe the fact that they're casting some of these things makes sense. It's kind of interesting, though, that we're very much like, obviously there's been a lot of casting news for the Superman movie that Gunn's doing, and now we're getting casting for Supergirl, Women of Tomorrow. It is kind of interesting that these 2 movies, the 2 super movies, will be the 2 of the first out in this new universe.
I do think that's by design, though, right? Like, they want to reset from where they were, and how do we do that? Is we give Superman a proper section of the universe before we do other things. That said, isn't the Justice League International apparently in the Gunn movie?
Yeah, they're in it, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I like it as a change of pace from where we were, because Aquaman did just come out, Aquaman 2, with a, what's the opposite of a bang? Like
a wet fart.
Yeah. So it seems like it's dead. So they're definitely moving in a different direction.
Yeah, I think it's just I think it's a coincidental thing almost, just in the sense that Superman is one of the A-listers, and you want to start with an A-lister, but he's also the one that's been gone the longest in the sense of, yeah, I know he was in Justice League, but that was a while ago now.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a case of staying away. You don't want to do this universe's Batman because we just had a good Batman movie, but even though that wasn't connected to the last universe or this universe, Batman's pretty fresh in everyone's heads. You don't want to start with Aquaman. You wouldn't. I mean, you probably wouldn't want to start with Aquaman in any circumstance. But certainly
or Shazam,
not. Yeah,
right?
but certainly not after we've just had those mediocre sequels that did nothing at the box office.
Yep.
So
did not move the needle.
Yeah, it makes some sense. I just think it's interesting as a pair. Like, starting with Superman makes a lot of sense to me, but the fact that Supergirl, Women of Tomorrow seems like it'll be next in line is interesting.
Yeah,
just from
and how pop culture and society itself kind of moves in these circles and cycles. It almost feels like they're following the track record from pre the comic book movie boom, right? Because before there was any Batman movies and stuff, there was 4, right? There at least 3 or 4 of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. There was the Helen Slater Supergirl.
Yeah, it was all 4 because the last Superman was 1987 and then Batman was 89. So
yeah,
well, unless we're counting the 60s Batman, of course.
Yeah, I mean, but that was that was kind of its own thing, right? The Batman 66 stuff. So it's not lost on me that these are the first 2 out. Also, almost like, again, we're following that timeline.
It would be funny if the third one is the universe's version of Batman, just to keep that going.
Yeah.
I don't know where. Well, I suppose technically there is a slot for Green Lantern because there was a terrible Green Lantern movie that came out. There was eventually a Flash movie, so I guess there's a slot for that. We'll have to wait a while for that, though. And I don't blame them for staying away from Flash for a long time.
Yeah.
But it hurts because I love the Flash as a character, and that was one of the most depressing things about that movie even getting made, is that I knew, this is going to blacklist the concept for a while. We're not going to get this character again in a movie for a while.
That's what happens when you get people that don't understand what makes the character work, right? It's like, yes, the Flash is big with the multiverse, but we need to care about the Flash before we start dropping him into the multiverse. And they just rushed it all. I was like, he can go to different universes? All right, we're going to squeeze as much IP as we can.
Oh, yeah, I could sound like a broken record about this, but give me a movie where he's doing Reverse Flash. Give me a movie with the Rose. Give me a movie with Grodd. That's a trilogy right there before we even start messing with Flashpoint bullshit.
Yep.
So, anywho, yes. This all came from, they've cast someone as Supergirl. I can't really comment on her herself because I've never seen her in anything. So.
No, but I am reading an article and it talks about how James Gunn loved her on House of the Dragon. And so it made her, she kind of had this swagger that he was looking for this version of Supergirl, which if it is adapting the Tom King story closely, she's going to need that swagger because, we get introduced to her in that story as she's kind of hungover from going out on a night drinking across the galaxy. So, you know.
And they just, I think it was solicited already, but I noticed that the cover for the deluxe hardcover was posted on Twitter this week. So clearly they're bringing it back in print in a big deluxe format because they know that it's going to probably do well with the movie coming out. And I imagine they'll keep that in print all throughout the build up to the movie and then at least for a while after it's out.
And as a Supergirl story, that is one to keep, it's a good one to keep in perpetual print, right? Because it kind of hits all the beats of what makes her work and how she's different from Superman. So them just having that constantly in the spotlight, I think is good for comics too.
Yeah, it's not my favorite, but it's definitely up there, and it's one that I think, a lot of these characters, because like Batman and Superman have so many like individual books you can just hand to people and say, read this. You don't need anything else. Just start to finish. This will be the whole story you need. A lot of other characters don't really have that, and I think that it would be good for characters like Supergirl. And I'm even thinking like Flash and Green Lantern. There's not many standalone stories. Like, you can recommend Green Lantern Rebirth as much as it's one of the most important things. It's the start of a whole run. It doesn't really work that well on its own.
No. and it recaps where Hal had been too. So
Yeah.
it's very reliant on what had happened before. It's not really a fresh start. It is a rebirth, if you will,
Yeah.
right? Like, so.
And Supergirl has being super, which I love, and
Mhm.
that should always be in print as well. Although, of course, it's
Yep.
very different because it's sort of doing more of a Clark-esque origin for her. So,
But yeah, I mean, if they weren't adapting Woman of Tomorrow, I think being Super would have been the next logical, you know. But it is it is a teen kind of story, coming of age through superheroes that we get a lot. So I appreciate Gunn trying something different.
Oh, sure. I'm
with
not saying
Supergirl. Yeah.
At this point, I need them to do some different things with these movies anyway, because superhero
Yeah.
movies as a concept is so stale now that
Yeah.
he's going to have to wow me and make me care about what's going on.
Mhm.
He gets a little bit of an easy job for us personally, just because we care more about DC, but that's only going to go so far. In fact, the fact that I've not seen the last 4 DC movies kind of shows that pretty easily. So, we'll see. But cool. I suppose the other big casting for this movie would probably be the other character, right? The girl that she's
the girl.
she's like helping. It's really the only other main character of the whole thing.
Yeah. What was her name? I'm forgetting.
I was even pretending that I could remember.
Yeah, no, I thought I could pull it up, but I can't. I thought I could. If I just type in Woman Tomorrow, it would come to me, and it didn't. But yeah, her, because she's really the only other main character. Everybody else, it's kind of very episodic with who we're, and the guy that she's chasing, right?
The villain, I guess.
Dad, yeah. So.
Yeah, be interested to see how they handle all that. Because I don't imagine it'll be quite as episodic in the movie.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Anyway, let's get into the books then. We'll start off with Titans Beast World issue 6. Tom Taylor writing with Ivan Reis, Lucas Meyer, and Eduardo Pansica on the art. And this is an oversized issue. This was a sort of 40-ish page finale. So 6 issues, but this is double size, so it's kind of more like 7 issues, really, when you stop and think about it.
Which is kind of spot on for, I love that when DC puts their special things like this at 7 issues, so it just feels right. Even though this is only 6, but
7 in the spirit.
Yeah. So as a whole, before we talk about this, how do you feel about Beast World as an event?
Pretty good, I'd say.
Yeah.
I think Taylor does a good job of making me root for the characters and what they're trying to achieve, of giving me the heartwarming moments. There's definitely a couple of things that I have questions on, for sure, but overall I feel like, and I think it not only does it sort of give the Titans this big story where they get to be the stars, where they get to be the ones who are solving the big problem, and Superman and the other big A-listers are answering to them and following their instructions, which is nice. And the other big thing it does is that it really does make it feel like it moves Amanda Waller's story forward finally for the first time in decades. Maybe.
A long time. Yeah. Since maybe Checkmate, where she kind of really came to prominence as the chess master type character, to now to where this leaves her at. She's, I can't not help think of Thunderbolt Ross or J. Jonah Jameson, over at the other company, who is just constantly this person speaking out against the superheroes. But yeah, I just echo what you just said too. It's I really appreciate that it really pushed the Titans to the forefront of DC, right? Because right now there's no Justice League, and it really made the Titans feel like this A-level group, right? That they are more than the sum of their parts, because they kind of have that kind of family vibe to them. And the reason they're able to come together, Taylor pulls on those heartstrings, and makes everything work. So, this is all stuff that we already knew, right? We appreciate the Titans and Nightwing and all those characters, but to put them put the spotlight on them for other people that might not know, I think it did its job of spreading that awareness around.
I mean, it's a group of characters that DC for a long time had bungled. Didio, of course, being the one we always blame for that. It may not be the sole blame, but certainly he was the one that we pinned it all on. I think, I do have some questions about, there's a sort of twist at the end that leaves me with a couple of questions that maybe, I imagine Taylor will get into it in Titans going forward, because obviously it's setting up story for that book. So yeah, obviously the cliffhanger last issue was that Dr. Hate was actually the demonic side of Raven who had escaped the stone. It mentions here that she escaped the stone when they were in hell for that story protecting the girl in Nightwing. So I thought that was okay. All right, you actually kind of seeded that a while back.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice. But yeah, like a lot of this issue is kind of simple in the way that it's like, okay, we're going to lure out all the parasites from all the different animal people, and then kill the parasites, which is great until there's a realization. Until Raven realizes that, oh, the monster people aren't attacking her, and that must be because in some level Gar is still kind of in there. And that's been seeded as well throughout the Titans run, which is this idea that when Gar splits up into all these different creatures, that there's a little bit of him in all of them. Yep. So they're like, wait a minute, if Gar's still in there and we can possibly somehow put him back together, then we can't just be killing the parasites. And at this point, they've already killed a bunch of them. Like, you know, like as soon as she says that, you see Starfire holding a dead one in her hand, and she's like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, then I immediately thought of John sizzling them all, right? With the electrical powers, you know, and the stuff they were doing to save their friends.
Yeah, he was killing, like, you know, dozens of them at a time. Yeah.
If Gar has brain damage after this, it might be because of John. You know?
Well, that was one of the things that they kind of do later on in the issue, is that when they get all the parasites together again and they form into Beast Boy, he's kind of like a zombie because it's not enough of them. Like, they've made the shape of him, but there's not enough of them left until the sort of the final part of it is brought in. But which I guess if you want to talk about that, the idea that because he was a starfish technically, and starfish can regenerate from a single limb, they're able to use that for him to completely regenerate into Beast Boy. How did you feel about that little...
Well, you know, being a biology nerd really paid off, because I believe in issue 1, when we saw that piece go off with the Necrostar, I was like, I would not be surprised. And yet here we are. That's exactly what it did. And that's just good storytelling, right? Like, there's no reason for, you know, the average person to know this going in. But the fact that, you know, we saw that piece went off with the Necrostar, got boom tubed into a distant galaxy and frozen, you know, for Taylor to bring that back around and for him to have the characters explain that too, you know, that's just solid storytelling. But I definitely pat myself on the back way too much this week with that. So. Yeah,
I think there's a line about it also rebuilding neurons, which I think was the attempt at explaining, because even with the regeneration part of it physically, there was still the question of, but like four of the 5 limbs of Garrow still are dead. And if Beast Boy was split up into all these different things, then, you know, that would be... But I suppose the argument is that because that wasn't different things, because Garrow was just one giant thing, arguably the rules of the starfish apply to it, where as long as one part of it's left, he can completely come back from it. But anyway, we get our big, you know, Beast Boy's back. You know, Gar's back at the end of the issue. He's fine. We get a heartwarming embrace, only to get the rug pulled out from under us that when Raven was fighting her demonic form throughout the issue and tries to put her back into the gem, the evil side pulled a switcheroo and put the good Raven inside the Soul Stone, and now she's the one in charge, masquerading as Raven.
Yeah, there's a lot of bleak stuff that Taylor does, but nothing like that, you know, for lack of a better term, a post-credit with our Raven talking through the stone, saying, I'm here, I'm in here. And it just felt so hopeless. And I was like, damn you, Taylor, are you puppeteering my emotions? You know, and also the art on that page, the darkness, when you turn the page on the demon version of her with the multiple eyes and stuff, everything's in heavy shadow. It really plays that. So, I have zero doubt that the Titans will save their friend. You know, so they fight Trigon, and, you know, that's normal.
Yeah. I mean, I think the question I have here is that this means that it's actually evil Raven who tells them how to rebuild Beast Boy. So the question then is, why did she do that if that's not the good Raven? Is that telling us that even demonic Raven has some kind of attachment to Beast Boy, and that she kind of maybe it's less of a genuine love from her, more of like a sick obsession because she's the evil side. I don't know, but
Yeah.
but this is the bad Raven who's done that. This is the bad Raven who like instructs them how to pull all this off. So that does raise some questions about her intentions with that.
You know, so she also gets the helm taken away from the Lords of Chaos. So she's no longer Dr. Hate, which that was a whole sequence that I love. I love that it takes the team, right? So Corey's able to essentially blast the helm off of her, and then Wally runs it to a lava field in a volcano.
Yeah, notably, the helmet tries to seduce Wally into the dark side, as it were. But he's like, I'm too quick. You're already melting in the lava before I can even think about changing sides. And then just says, bye, Chaos Lords, and runs off.
Well, and there's that. And he also makes a Lord of the Ring joke where he's like, I know how to deal with evil, mystical artifacts. Into the lava you go. So
I didn't even get that was a Lord of the Rings joke.
Oh, yeah. That's how they have to destroy the One Ring, Pete. Even a self-professed Lord of the Rings, I'm not a hater. I just don't like it. Even I know that one. So... I like all of that, and so
I always fell asleep by the time they threw Ethan into a volcano.
Brother, you and me both. I just know from pop culture. Those movies are hooey. Anyway, I can rationalize that too. Is the chaos? Yes, she's a demon, right? But she's still a piece of Raven. So yeah, there are a piece of her that want Beast Boy back now.
So you're saying she still cares? Like Demon Raven still cares about Beast Boy? Okay.
There's still a piece of her there, and without the Lords of Chaos telling her to go do, seed chaos, she is putting Beast Boy together almost as if, for her more than anything. And I don't know, maybe she needs the Titans to enact whatever the next part of her plan is, so she needs them to believe. It's all one of the, it's kind of like an undercover type thing.
I could see it being that she doesn't really even care about him. She's just going to use him to get Trigon out or something like.
That could be. Yeah. That could be too. But I still go back to the point that when it was revealed that she's Dr. Hate, the reason that Dr. Hate was able to flip Gar so quickly was that it was Raven talking to him. Like, again, that's not. Taylor never said that. That's just how, it makes sense going back and thinking about, when he becomes Garo from Gar. So, I feel like there is a part of Rey, evil or not, that does care. So she's able to get this and get him back. But again, is it for another reason? Is it, for Trigon to, be released? Is it because she's going to use the Titans for whatever, means is coming? We'll find out in Titans, I guess.
Yeah, no, all very interesting. So our key scenes, Nightwing goes to the president, who they do that thing where they never really show who the president is because they don't want to be specific. But he's about to unmask to try and gain some trust from the president, and the president is like, no,
I know what happens to people who know your identity. No, thank you.
Yeah. But he buys some trust because they help sort of de-animal his wife. The first lady was, turned into whatever. And this gets a little bit of trust. He's basically just, can you tell all the other world leaders not to try and kill us when we go in to try and save everyone? And sure enough, that seems to be the case. But of course, by the end of the book, Waller has taken the Hall of Justice, which has been dormant ever since the Justice League shut down, because the Titans haven't been using it, and she's turned it into the Hall of Order. It makes a whole big speech about how they're taking something that was never earned back by the people, and she's still, spouting her propaganda. She's still doing her hate speech about superheroes. She's like, they're not heroes, they're an alien, a robot, a freak, or, I can't remember the giant list, but, it's her spouting this idea of the other and trying to further her whole thing. And I think that's been one of the key things in this story that make it feel like an event to me, because it's really advancing her push on the world. So I thought that was a really cool thing to set up for the future stories.
And calling it the Hall of Order too raises some flags for me, because we know she got the Nightmare Stone in the Helm of Chaos, right? But what if you remember when Naboo goes crazy with Dr. Fate, and he's just all about order, and it's only instilling order, and there's no room for balance. I'm almost wondering if that's what's going on with Waller. Is not necessarily saying it's the Lords of Order, but whatever happened to her, you know, on Earth 3 that led to her coming back, it has something to do with there can only be order. You know, I don't know if something's manipulating her or if she saw something and went for that. But them calling it the Hall of Order here, I think there's something more to that name than just, you know, the whole Law and Order aspect of Amanda Waller.
Like, you may be right. I don't necessarily think so, though. I think this is just about how, like, you know, the heroes always talk about justice, they always talk about truth, and all these other good concepts. I think Order's the one that sounds good, but it tends to be used by people who are trying to control everyone, and I think it's just a representation of who Waller is. So I don't think there's any sort of
It could be too.
I don't think there's like any secret plot reason for it, but I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know.
No, but you do make sense, because if they're about truth and justice, those are a lot more positive than order. Order, you know, you can have evil order. You know, I mean, the Empire in Star Wars was all about order and control. You know, and they were the bad guys. So, I mean, it fits with her too. I just, you know, her overtaking that, calling it that, and whatever. It brought up my comic book nerd flags. You know.
Yeah. At one point, Donna gets this fancy, like, kryptonite / something else suit.
Yeah, some type of specialized metal.
Yeah, so she can take on Kryptonians and Tamaranians. I think the key thing here for me, though, I mean, obviously you get all the cool shots of her in this fancy battle suit, but for me, the big thing here is that Nightwing whips out a folder with saying, hey, this is how you can take me down, and hands it to Donna. And I kind of, it's like he's basically doing the Tower of Babel thing. He's doing the everyone's got a weakness, and we're making sure that if anyone gets infected by these spores, because they could become infected and then they're the biggest threat possible, then everyone needs a way to be taken down. But I think what's interesting so it's very much, he's been taught by Batman. This is very much his education coming into play here. But what I kind of like about him doing it differently is that instead of just him having all the folders, he's given them all to different people. So it's this idea that Donna's got the way to take down Dick, someone else has the way to take down Donna, someone else has the way to take down Starfire, so on and so
Raven,
forth.
and Cyborg, Beast Boy, which I like, because instead of being the Tower of Babel, the Batman files that Ra's al Ghul, you know, the Batman keeps secret, and Ra's al Ghul weaponizes. It's Dick is spreading it around and saying, hey, I trust you to use this if it needs to, and never use it if it doesn't. You know, which again, that's what Nightwing's learned from Batman.
Dare I say, it's more of a round robin.
Yeah. Hey, you know,
hold your applause, everyone. Don't call me a hero, right? There's too much.
Oh, definitely.
There's too much.
I would never. At best, you're an anti-hero.
Dear, yeah.
But no, yeah, and just her in that battle suit, it is cool. I like when any familiar character gets an updated type of thing in an event like this, and I don't ever expect to see this type of suit again. But it was cool to see her, you know, in the specialized, you know, it's not quite a mech, but this kind of suit of armor.
Yeah, I don't expect to see it again, but if we do, it'll be in Taylor's Titans run, because he's the one who introduced it.
Yeah.
And he'll have plans for it in some way. Yeah, I think the art is pretty good throughout. For a book with 3 artists, it's shockingly consistent. I'm not saying you can't tell when it changes necessarily, but they're all within a reasonable range of each other, that you're never feeling whiplash from art style changes, I don't think.
Yeah, no, and especially the Ivan Reis and Lucas Meyer art, they're very complimentary.
Yeah. I think Meyer's my favorite of the 3. That's someone who we just kind of discovered through this series, because his couple issues really stuck out. But you know, it's a bigger issue. They had all 3 artists kind of like team up to make sure they get all the pages done. I don't think there's a single page that I don't like art wise, and I think that's nice to see, and
especially when, like you said, when the art is split amongst so many, 3 people, it has the with not that there's no rhyme and reason, but there's no storyline reason for it. It can get really chaotic, but the fact that these 3 artists, because who's the third one is Pansica.
Pansica. Although is Pansica just the epilogue with the Raven?
I believe so, unless that's Lucas Meyer, because that looks very much when Beast Boy comes to, it looks very much like the Lucas Meyer stuff that we did enjoy. So
that's not the epilogue yet. The epilogue's the
the epilogue's the Raven stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I think you're right. Because looking at that with all the dark shadows, it is very different.
Yeah, it looks
So
different from the rest of the book.
if this is just Reis and Meyer, it's still fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just balanced.
Yeah, there's good moments throughout. You know, you got John catching a rocket at one point, Sergeant Steele yelling at him, all the various PCs with the like Peacemaker at the start, all the stuff with the spores. In fact, this is not an art thing, but one of my favorite lines in the book is it's actually Detective Chimp who's like got the plan to get all the spores, and he's like given the orders to like all these like A-list superheroes. There's a whole lineup of them across the top of the page, and he's given the orders, and there's just a little narration box saying it was the most power ever wielded by one chimpanzee. And I thought that was a very funny line.
Yeah, no, it's good. More Detective Chimp. I love it. You know, I miss that Justice League Dark book where he was, you know, running around with that sword. You know, what was it from the Night Guard, whatever that guy's name was, who ran the Oblivion Bar. You know, a lot more Detective Chimp there. It was a lot of fun. So maybe Taylor will start working him in now into some Titan stuff.
Maybe, yeah. So no, I'm pretty happy overall with this event. It's definitely one of the events that I've enjoyed the most in a long time, because I feel like all the ones we had in the last few years, whether it was Williamson's like Infinite Frontier stuff or whatever that Justice Incarnate, is that what that's called?
It was all part of one thing. It was Williamson telling the story over.
But not just that though. I'm even thinking of like the last like metal, you know, heavy metal or dark metal. Like some of that stuff. Like there was good stuff in it. Like there was always stuff that I enjoyed in the books, but I think I always felt that sort of event kind of like this ended like an event kind of did.
I think where Taylor succeeds, where Williamson and some of these other ones didn't, is there really is an emotional core of saving Carr through this.
Yeah, I give a shit about the characters because of the story specifically, and I think that's something that some of the other events just never quite capture.
Yeah, I know, because we were shocked when Waller sends in Chunk and sacrifices Chunk to kill Gar, you know, and then it kind of felt hopeless. And, you know, us knowing that comics it'll probably end up well for them. It still didn't take away from any of it, and that's because Taylor had us caring for these characters. And then especially when they turn into beasts too, it's like, you know, there is a cure. This is not some zombie virus, you know, or techno-organic thing that's turning people into robots. You know, there was a way out. We saw it throughout. You know, you draw up the spore by being the more powerful thing.
Yeah, there was a simple, understandable rule. It wasn't just random. It was like, no. If Batman's infected with a spore, but then Superman shows up in front of him, the spore will try and jump because he's got a more powerful body.
Right.
Simple stuff.
So I think there's a lot of stuff there that because that's kind of a simple overarching story, it allows for those character moments to really sink in. So, you know, and this is what Taylor's done in Deceased and Dark Knights of Steel and all these other, you know, non-continuity stories. So it's good to see him bring it over here and kind of leave, not that the DC universe is in a better place after this, but it's definitely, you know, in a world without the Justice League, the DC universe feels okay.
It feels more defined.
Yeah.
Feels defined. So I'm curious to see, like, you know, I know they've got a summer event that they're teasing, they've not revealed yet. I wonder if Waller's whole shtick will play into that. Maybe not. We'll find out. But definitely curious. And yeah, I think, you know, the Dr. Hate stuff leading into it was definitely the stuff that I was the most skeptical of. And it was probably still the weakest part of it overall, because, you know, whenever Dr. Hate showed up before the unmasking, it was kind of like, oh, they feel kind of ancillary to everything else that's going on. Obviously, the reveal that it's Dark Raven was a bit more interesting. I think that stuff, though, I kind of like more what it's set up for going forward in Titans than I did itself in the story. Like, I enjoyed all the Spore stuff. I enjoyed the caring about Beast Boy, his big tragic saving the world play that ended in his death. Everyone coming together to save him. All that stuff was great. And I think the Raven stuff is fine, and I'm excited for it more going forward, because, like, okay, now we have this darker side of Raven, and I'm looking forward to Beast Boy maybe noticing that there's something not quite right, for him to be the one who says, hey, that's not my Raven, there's something there.
Yeah.
You know?
Or what if, because of this, has changed him, and he's just like, yeah, no, she understands it now. And, you know, and not necessarily he's on the dark side, but he's on a darker sense of...
I'm about to reference something I have never seen.
But
at one point he's going to go, that's not so Raven.
Very, very, very nice.
I've heard of a show called That's So Raven. I've never seen it. I don't know what it is.
Well, she's a teenager that gets psychic visions, and then hilarity ensues.
Really? So, I had no idea there was a superpower. Yeah. I just thought it was a sitcom. Yeah. But fair enough.
Yeah, no, it's a sitcom based around she'll, you know, typical sitcom stuff, and then she'll look into the future and see something bad happen, and then it ends up being one of those type of self-fulfilling prophecies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I was just a bit too old by the time that started.
Yeah.
But okay, fair enough.
You know, I have a wife within your age range that's very familiar with That's the Raven, and then when the show came back for one of the Legacy sequels, she watched all of that too. So you know, very familiar. Even though I don't remember character names, I just know Raven. Anyways, to add on what you were saying about Dr. Hate versus Dark Raven is, once the reveal happens, I care way more about Dark Raven than I do Dr. Hate. Yeah. You know, and I know part of it is you have to keep the mystery of who this is because of, you know, the turn in the, you know, the 5th issue or whatever. But once it's revealed to be Dark Raven, that matters to me more because of, you know, stuff we're talking about, story and character going forward. Then, you know, because I
think it's also because Dr. Hate just felt like a typical comic book thing where the whole point is that we're waiting for the reveal, and it feels a bit gimmicky as a result. And I don't know if this was Taylor's idea or if this was like wider DC stuff. I mean, I don't know, because it's just feeding into Titans, so it probably was just his idea. The only reason I'm questioning that is because it was set up in those final pages of that last thing.
And I'm wondering if he's just like, look, I'm going to use a Dark Raven. I'm going to have to keep it under secret. So yeah, let's, you know, I feel like him and Williamson both are under the understanding about Waller. So they're like, well, how can we work on this that it can forward both of her goals, you know? And by creating Dr. Hate out of Night Terrors and then into Titans, where now I feel like that part's over. And I feel like we still have, you know, from being the only person still reading Green Arrow on the show, Waller's still very much a character in that, and that's Williamson, you know. So I have the feeling that we'll get some more of this Waller stuff there, you know, leading up to whatever the summertime event is, which I'm pretty sure is going to be Williamson at this point.
I also just wonder if it's just a kind of a, like, you're doing an event. You have to have some gimmicky mystery to draw people in, and that's what Dr. Hate was designed to be. So even if it was Taylor's idea, it might be kind of like a necessary evil of just the format that he's writing for. Which is not to just blindly defend him necessarily. It could just be his mediocre idea, because he has them sometimes. That's normal. But
yeah, Pirate Society, right? Like,
yeah, yeah, sure. You know? Pirate Society is a good example.
You know what I mean? But again, and this is coming from a former Williamson guy, is I feel like when Williamson is throwing out all these ideas, he forgets about the character aspect of it. Whereas with Taylor, he's very character driven. So yes, Dr. Hate might have been like this cool design, and we're going to give him the Helm of Chaos and the Nightmare Stone. But at the end of the day, the motivations are whatever Dark Raven is, not necessarily, you know, whatever they were going to do with the Nightmare Stone.
I am sure there's going to be good drama in Titans because of this now, and I'm excited about that. So, but everything else in the event I really liked. It was a good time. I think double shipping it, or in this month's case, kind of triple shipping it with the week 5, just to get it over in about 2.5 months, I think was a smart choice. It meant that even though Titans and Nightwing tied into it a little bit, it was only an issue or 2 for each book, and it just, you know, it was a breeze, and there was a fun tiny thing over Christmas and January basically to have this event to talk about. So yeah, what are you giving Titans Beast World issue 6?
I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
Yeah, I'm tempted to go as high as the 9. I think there's a lot of really smart things it does. But at the same time, it is kind of an event final issue, so it's it has the components that normally make up those issues of like doing a lot of action, and it looks quite good, the action. But there's a lot of good stuff in there. That said, though, I think I'll agree with the 8.5. I think I'll agree with that. All right, Batman and Robin 2024 annual. Joshua Williamson writing with Howard Porter on the art. So what is this? One might ask.
Yes, what is this? What is this? Something about the hunted on the cover?
So basically, Batman and Robin are chasing after what's this pair of twins called? Double Dare, and there's not much to it. They catch them in the first like 2 pages, but the whole thing is one of them mentions that they just wanted to get some money to go on a road trip, and that's why they stole something. And Damian, and this is actually my biggest complaint of the issue, is that Damian turns to Batman and says, "What's a road trip?" And I'm like, I'm sorry. Damian's 14 years old. He's been living in the city for, 5 years or something now. The concept of a road trip is not an alien thing to him, right? He's not a fish out of water anymore.
He has friends across the world. They are all assassins, true. However, he made friends on the murder tournament island. Okay, like he would know road tripping to go see them. So see, this is the stuff with Williamson that I just go, what are we doing, bud?
It's a weird thing. But I mean, the actual thing that it sets up is kind of fun as a concept. It's basically, cut to next page. Bruce is taking Damian on a father-son road trip. They're going camping or whatever. And it's about bonding. It's about doing normal stuff. No outfits, no Batman and Robin, just father-son stuff. But of course, when they stop at a station along the way, there's a bunch of missing posters. And it's like, there's going to be plot anyway. There's going to be something to solve. And sure enough, when they get to the campground, they find a dead body within seconds, right? Which I would have complained about, but they find more dead bodies, and it becomes very clear within a couple pages. They've been trapped in a force field, and what this actually is that it's our old sneaky friend Roulette, who puts on hunts for rich people who want to hunt people in this circular forest area.
Dang, I thought you meant she was having rich people hunted. Doesn't make
No.
Damn.
So they're basically the prey for all these assassins and rich people who want to go hunting. The main one being what's his name? The Blood Sport. That's the one. I can't want to say Bloodshot. That's not Bloodshot. That's a Vin Diesel movie. Bloodsport.
Bloodsport was that Idris Elba's character in the second? I believe so, in the second Suicide Squad.
Actually, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Although the movie didn't have this whole thing where he can materialize guns out of nothing. He's got fancy tech that lets him just have guns appear in his hands.
Every American's dream.
So, I mean, that's what it is. And Batman and Robin have realized this, and okay, what have we got with us? And we've got a little hatchet. We've got some rope. We've got some torches, some matchsticks. Blah blah blah. And then there's a couple things at the bottom. There's 6 batarangs, a katana, and some smoke grenades. And Batman turns to Robin and says, "I told you no bat tools on this trip." And he's like, "But you brought the batarangs." And he just goes, So whatever. But basically, they pretend to go to sleep, but they actually set up a bunch of Rambo-style traps for all the villains that are going to come and try and kill them. It's basically about as bonding as Bruce and Damian would have. Howard Porter's art is, it's Howard Porter art, right? It worked very well whenever he was doing Flash. I've had some issues when he's been doing something like Batman, because he's sort of more loosey-goosey style, doesn't necessarily lend itself as well. I'd say it's fine a lot of the time, but there's also sometimes where he'll just make it a lot wavier than it should be. And I think a good example of this is when they're at the campsite and one of the assassins trips over a tripwire, right? So a tripwire is a straight line. And when you trip into it, maybe you bend it forward a little bit, but you trip. The art at the top of this page that shows the assassin tripping on this tripwire, the line is like an S shape, and there's like waves around. It's so weird. It just doesn't feel like
That's a very ineffective trip line if it's shaped like an S.
Well, it wasn't in the previous page. It's just like it's like he's overly artistically trying to jazz it up, and it just kind of feels like it's almost lost the intent of what it's supposed to be.
I had that same issue with him on Deathstroke when he was doing Deathstroke with Williamson. And it was a lot of this stuff that was very straightforward, kind of action-y, that he was adding flares to that makes sense in Flash when someone's moving at that speed, right? But people that are meant to be kind of normal humans, it's always a little bit weird. Like the proportions are off and the perspective seemed off.
Yeah. For sure. So, yeah, I mean, that's basically it. At one point, I think it's Bloodsport who thinks he's killed them because he stabs the sleeping bags, but it turns out they're not in there because they're too smart for that.
The old trick chasing trick.
Yep. So, I mean, not really all that much to it as a story, really. Eventually, obviously, Bruce and Damien go to the headquarters where the actual gambling of it's happening and where they're all placing their bets. And kind of take it down. Roulette runs away for a little bit, of course. Bloodsport tries to get back involved, but ultimately the police come in. Chase is there to arrest Roulette, and that's basically it. And the little stinger at the end is Damien realizing that Bruce knew about this case and that he took him out there intentionally to get into this. It wasn't just going to be camping ever. Because this is how they bond. Which, to be fair, is something Damien says somewhere in the middle of the issue. He's like, we're not regular father and son. Like, we bond in different ways. We don't have to bond over a sports game just because that's what regular people do. We bond over good martial art techniques. We bond over taking down kingpins. This is kind of Bruce, in a way, acknowledging that, yeah, there's some truth to that. Like, we bond differently. We bonded over taking down this weird assassin's sporting thing.
Yeah, you won't appreciate this, but it sounds like in Step Brothers when John C. Reilly is telling the dad, we're men, we shoot with the door open, we do this, we do that, and his dad looks at him and goes, we've literally never done any of that stuff, so this feels very much the same vibe as that.
You're right, I didn't appreciate that.
No, I knew you wouldn't.
Yeah, but here's a good example. The very final page, which is just a full page spread of them driving back to Gotham, and the bridge is just wavy from side to side for like no reason. Why is it wavy? I don't understand.
Not a very good bridge is what you're saying. You want a straight, very sturdy bridge.
It's just it's like sometimes he thinks, I'll spice it up. These things that are meant to be straight lines, I'm just going to have some fun with them instead. And I just feel like it detracts from the overall vibe. So I'd say the art's kind of middling for me because of that. These flourishes that he puts in. I mean, I don't think the comic's great. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it that much because I don't think it's... it's not continuing the main story in any way, which, I tend to prefer in an annual. Just give me an oversized regular issue, basically. I do at least appreciate that this is just one self-contained story by the regular writer, though, instead of, an anthology of short stories. Mm-hmm. More on that in a bit. But it's only just okay. It's like a 6.5. The overall concept's fun enough, but the art does drag it down for me a little bit. And, yeah, so... It's fine. It's okay. It's pretty harmless, but no one should be rushing out to buy it.
So I'm looking at, when you go to League of Comic Geeks, I'll give you like characters that pop up in there. They got Ambush Bug, Johnny Quick, Ultraman, and Superwoman tagged in this issue.
There's like a quick panel. I can't remember if it's a flashback from Bloodsport or if it's just they're attacking Bloodsport in the moment. I'll be honest, I don't remember. Okay. But it's like one panel or two. Okay. It's nothing.
Because again, that's Earth 3. That's where Waller came from. So I'm just wondering.
Oh yeah, it's a flashback because that's where Bloodsport comes from.
Oh.
Or he spent time there. Well, one or the other. But he was on Earth 3. He briefly mentions it, and that's where you get the flashback panel of all these other characters. So.
Got you. Okay. Well, there we go. And I'm only curious because of, again, Williamson and, the Waller stuff going forward and where this all plays into. So, I'm just trying to piece it all together as best I can.
Yeah, I don't think this is tying into Waller. I think this is just. I mean, unless he shows up in her new Suicide Squad team or whatever, I don't know. It's possible. It's possible. But I'm sure that'll go as smoothly as the new Suicide Squad game is this week.
Man, so I work around, middle school kids. Not one of them had anything good to say about that game when I overheard them this week.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
It was bad. Imagine how bad kids are with things and just crank that up to the highest level. It was bad times.
Yeah. You could pay extra to get into it early, right? And that version's like $100+, and they had to pull it down after it was online for a few minutes, because anyone who joined into the game, who went to go play it, the game just kind of glitched and said you'd completed it already.
Oh boy.
So they couldn't play the story, or at least not properly anyway.
I want to know what DC did, who they pissed off to get this curse. Because, man, anything that's not comics right now is just snake bit.
Warner Brothers making a lot of dumbass decisions. That's what that is.
Gotcha.
Anywho,
that checks out.
Batman Superman World's Finest 2024 annual. Different creators, because it's like 4 different stories throughout, which is probably the first big problem for me, is that I was hoping, maybe it'll be a standalone, or maybe it'll be an offshoot from Wade, something that ties into the main stuff. He does the first story with Cullen Bunn, so he's a co-writer on one of them, which is not as much as I would like, but hey. But this is a story of Mxyzptlk, Batmite, and all the other various mites that either existed and Wade's pulling them from somewhere, or perhaps some of them are new creations here. I'm not entirely sure.
I'm willing to say that they're new creations, because the way that they're acting, it definitely feels like they're more like Batmite than they are Mxyzptlk, right?
Sure, yeah.
So...
yeah, there's one mite for both Green Lantern and Green Arrow, because...
they call him Green Mite, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
And they tell him to pick a lane.
I did enjoy everyone making fun of Hawkman's backstory. They're like, hey, I dare you to tell me your origin story. I dare you. That was pretty funny, I will admit. I will say, though, it felt like just a lot of comedy until eventually there's actually something that shows up that starts killing them all. But that happens quite late in the story. Where we get all the villain mites show up. You get Joker mites, Sinestro mite, so on. But they're being led by some evil voice. We don't get to see who it is. They're in a cloak.
They're in a cloak. Their dialogue is in black bubbles with red font, which is always somebody like Darkseid. So I'm not saying this is Darkseid, but it's
Darkseid mate. Is that you're getting at?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's very reminiscent of that. And I know that Wade, and I know he only co-wrote this, Wade doesn't do stuff by accident like that. You know what I mean? So whatever this threat is, it's something of Darkseid's level.
It says to be continued in issue 25 of World's Finest, which is fine. And I've got a funny feeling that when we get to the continuation of this entire story is going to feel like something that basically will get explained in a sentence, and that would have been fine if you'd never read this. It's probably just going to be, this evil force killed most of the mites in the 5th dimension, and that'll be mentioned probably to sell how threatening they are. But this actual story of it happening is mostly just the mates having comedy dialogue for 8 pages before.
And Mxyzptlk trying to tell them stuff, but because they're a different kind of imp than him, that they're not taking anything serious. He gets finally fed up. He's like, I tried to tell you guys, and then he gets out of there. I think him and Batmite.
So the 2 ones that are actually pre-established that we know tend to be around are the ones that survive, which is not so. So it tells me that obviously we're getting these 2 in World's Finest, but I feel like this is going to be barely a footnote as to the just explaining that this threat's coming, and that's it, which is fine. But when I got to the end of this, I felt like, okay, that was mostly just comedy. I didn't feel like it was that substantial, but okay, you've set up this villain for this future story. And I thought, as long as now we can get into some more proper stories after this, I'll be happy. And I'm not saying I disliked all the ones after this, but this was the only one that felt like it was actually that relevant to the main book. The rest of them,
Yeah.
you know,
The last one feels like it ties into this one, but other than that,
yeah, because
there's nothing.
the second story is a Metamorpho story, and it basically follows on from whatever issue it was where that story wrapped up, where they were dealing with Stag and Metamorpho, where Stag wants to take Metamorpho to this volcano in Markovia to get this fancy relic that he wants.
Yeah, the Hammer of Vulcan, which is a god. He's the Roman god of creation. He's like, who's he like? Hephaestus and stuff. So, they're gonna send Metamorpho because of his powers.
Yeah, he can survive in there, unlike anyone else. This is a Dennis Culver story.
So I didn't realize this wasn't Wade, right? I thought all of these were gonna be Wade, doing a thing, and I was like, wow.
Oh no, he's done. He's done.
Yeah.
He was finished after that co-writing the first story.
Yeah. Did not realize this. So as I'm reading this, I'm going, man, this dialogue's rough. This is not very Wade-like. And then when I got to the credit page, I was like, oh, it's because this is Dennis Culver. It's not Wade at all.
To be fair though, his Doom Patrol book I thought had good dialogue.
I thought so too. So
I wonder if this is because he has to fit it into like 10 pages or whatever it is that he's struggling to condense it all in.
Yeah. That's what I was having a hard time with, is like, I like Dennis Culver. Why is this sounds, and then, yeah, it's very truncated. It's very, you just tell, like, the story's fine, but you can tell he wasn't, like, felt like the Doom Patrol book was like not like a dream project, but something he was itching to write. And this is just kind of like, sure, I'll write a Metamorpho backup story.
Yeah, he sets up the backstory of Metamorpho's dad and his relationship with his dad, so obviously his dad's going to show up. That's not like surprising anyone. I thought you might enjoy, though, that Rex used to be dressed like, what's his face? O'Connor from The Mummy. Like, seeing that flashback panel, he looks just like him. I was thinking Nathan Drake at first, but the scarf thing that he's wearing is actually more like Rick O'Connell.
Yep. That, and then his dad is definitely not an Indiana Jones ripoff named Montana Mason. Yeah. Which in a bubble, I would love this. I just, again, the dialogue was kind of off and everything was rushed. Like, I felt like if this was like a World's Finest fill-in issue where we had Culver and everybody and we got an issue to tell the story, I think it still would have been fine. It was just everything was rushed.
Yeah, I mean, I like the characters involved, and I like the overall vibe of what it does. The implication at the end that when he finds his dad in this big kind of like super bulky like diving suit to protect him from the elements, he lets his dad seemingly, it's implied that he lets his dad take the artifact because he doesn't want, rich asshole Simon Stagg to have it.
So the subtext of this is that he wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps until he realized he could make money because his dad was just doing it for science, right? Which also his dad's kind of drawn like Sean Connery in Last Crusade, which I thought was funny as well.
Yeah, his dad basically just thinks that belongs in a museum.
Yeah, and so and Rex is like, no, we can get paid, and I'm tired of living poor when we can get paid, and so that's the crux of their argument. So when he gets down there and this is like, this is gonna go where it belongs, and Metamorpho is just like, yeah, okay, and we don't know exactly what he does, but by the time he gets back with Stag, he's like, oh yeah, I got down there, the lava had already eaten the hammer, and he lets his dad get away and to Stag's chagrin.
Yeah, it's he clearly lies about it, and Stag's pissed and just thinks he's a failure again because he's always failing me. That stupid Metamorpho. Whereas Sapphire's defends him. I mean, it's a fine little thing. It does kind of feel like it might be setting up something for a future book because it feels like, why are you establishing this relationship with his father if we're not going to be telling more of the story somewhere? So I don't know if Culver's getting a Metamorpho or a Fantastics book. Well, not Fantastic, a Terrifics. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
I was crossing the streams with what it's based on, which is Fantastic Four.
Big time work.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's perfectly fine. But I was sort of feeling like, wait, are these all going to be like anthology stories? And sure enough, we get to the story after this, and it's a tie-in to World's Finest Teen Titans, And I was like, okay, that's cool. We get a a Bumblebee story from Teen Titans, but it's Stephanie Williams writing. With Rusty Campi on art, and I'm like, okay, so Wade's not doing any of these, and it's not to say that like I'm not saying that there can't be other writers in here that I wouldn't be excited to see, but I feel like Stephanie Williams is one of these writers who I see pop up in these types of anthology issues, and I don't know if I've ever actually read like a full comic from her that I really like.
And and there's nothing. So she also did the Nubia book, right, and some Wonder Woman. And so that's where I'm familiar with her. And she's not a bad writer. I just feel like these projects that I end up reading from them, they're just they never resonate with me. And this ended up being a very by the numbers Bumblebee origin kind of book or a story, not even a book. And I just I've seen all these beats before, and I'm just kind of like, okay. So this is one I kind of just skimmed and just kind of got by the art. Because not that there's anything wrong with Bumblebee. I don't necessarily, I would have appreciated her and her boyfriend, the music guy, continuing from Teen Titans versus an origin for her.
I mean, I don't mind it being a solo Bumblebee story. I just don't think the story itself is that captivating. It's basically her breaking into a medical company to prove that they're making bad prosthetics and things like that. She wants to get proof so that her friend who does like reporter stuff will actually report on it. Yeah. So it's basically just her sneaking in with some like self-made doohickeys and doing this, and it's just not that overall that interesting. I think it's just a bit too straightforward, all things considered.
Also, anytime I see people crawling through vents, knowing that vents are meant to hold air, not people, that'll still never not make me laugh. Cause,
I mean, this is hardly the first or last time you're gonna see that. Like,
it still just makes me laugh.
Yeah. The final story is a Challengers of the Unknown story with Christopher Cantwell writing with Jorge Fornes on art. So the art is the best it looks. This is the best art in the book.
Let's go. Yeah, let's go. Challengers of the Unknown by Fornes. Yes.
Yeah, I did find it a little tough to follow what the hell was going on in this story, though. If I'm being completely honest, I get that they go into some kind of other dimension through a door, and it seems like one of them, Jane specifically, it seems like she is left behind and dies. But then, would you believe it? She just kind of like walks back out at the end.
So. As I read this, right, so they're talking about the Challenger of the Unknown, and their origin is they all four of them survive a plane crash, which gives them this idea that they are living life on life is ticking by, and they're living life on a clock. And so what they have to do is they're going to try to extend their life by doing good deeds, and this leads them into doing superhero-y action adventure-y stuff. And so here they end up, the Doc character ends up, as I took this, getting in touch with the fifth dimension, right? Which when we hear about Mxyzptlk in the fifth dimension, we can't perceive it because our brains aren't advanced enough. And so when Doc's in there trying to engage with it, ends up getting lost to it. It looks like it's attacking him. So the rest of the challengers go in there and they all get, wonky, right? As it is, like we see the brains are all floating. Nothing's making sense and stuff until Jane goes in there and is able to, get everything focused to where if I believe she ends up going back and seeing their, traveling through the fifth dimension, she sees their origin and has a new appreciation for what they went through.
Well, I don't know if I got that, but she does mention that she landed on like the mountain that they landed their plane on. Right, that's what she says. That's where she woke up. So something put her there. So yeah. I was very surprised that this just said end at the end because I thought this was going to say to be continued in something. Yeah. Because it felt like it was setting up a mystery that I like. Well, where are we going with this?
It felt like the thing that was attacking the Doc was the same thing that had attacked the imps, right? It was like this weird squid thing, with tentacles and,
I don't know what you're talking about there. I don't remember a squid thing with tentacles in that first story.
Yeah. It was at the end of the first story. It was definitely there with the villain imps.
Was it?
Yeah.
Because when you said earlier that you think the last story tied into the first one, I was like, what are you talking about? I don't remember any tie-ins.
So go to that page where it says to be continued. There is that. It kind of looks like Starro. Is this supposed to be a Starro-mite?
Hold on, I'm going there.
So I shouldn't say squid, right? But it's definitely something.
Wait, are you talking about the clothes that are floating?
It's right above the clothes. It's got the eye with the pink with the 5 tentacles. So it looks more like a Starro than a squid.
Yeah, that's just clothes. What are you talking about?
No way, that's an eye, bro. Look right below Little Lobo in to the right of Little Cheetah.
I mean, I see it, but I legitimately didn't think that was a living thing. I thought that looked like someone's shirt floating after they'd killed them.
Yeah, no, I think it's supposed to be a creature of some kind. And now I'm going to go to the challengers and see.
I say shirt. What I really mean is more like a full bodysuit because it's got enough parts coming off of it. And
then see, there's when they get attacked, right? And they're in what looks like the 5th dimension, and you can't make sense of anything. There's like tentacle things attacking them. So I just assumed those are one and the same thing. That's why I thought it was a 5th dimensional thing. But maybe this is just a one and done type story, and it was just something from the void, getting at the challengers, I just wanted them to connect. So, that little Starro thing, I thought was maybe.
Even if I'm on board, and I agree, maybe it's not just clothes like I think it is, but I still don't see it linking up with what these tentacles are in the final story. They don't look anything similar to me, other than the fact that they're both red. Yeah,
well, that's all that I was going off of, because I really wanted them to connect.
I think you're making connections here that are not there to be made.
True. I'm not going to disagree.
I wasn't getting that from that. I literally just like at a glance thought that was the Flash's, like the Flashmite's outfit. It was just floating in the air.
No. Maybe it's Little Starro. I don't know, but it looks like a starfish.
Look at the way the top 2 parts are like coming down though. It doesn't. Yeah. It's not. I don't know. It doesn't look like it's drawn to be a creature.
But why is there an eye on it?
I just thought it was on the design, but I mean, maybe.
Anyways, this is the worst kind of annual.
As a whole reading experience, despite any minor positives I'll say about any individual stories, I hated reading this.
It was definitely a challenge to get through. However, the Fornes art in the last I was not expecting. So when I got there and I saw Fornes, I was like, oh, thank God. There's some positive here.
The Fornes art is great, but it's just, it's this real mixed bag. And by the end of it, I'm just like, oh my God, I remember getting to the end of the 3rd story and be like, oh God, I think I'm done. Oh no, there's one more.
Yep.
So it's the sort of thing where if this hadn't been a week 5 and we had 7, 8 other books, I would have just called it. I'd be like, I don't have to read this. But I was like, we don't have that many books this week. Okay, fine.
Yep.
So not my preferred type of annual, sadly. What are you giving World's Finest annual?
I'm gonna give this a 6.
I'm at 5. I'm gonna right down the middle.
There you go.
There's positives in there, but fundamentally, I just did not enjoy it.
Kind of want Dennis Culver now on Challenger of the Unknown, right? After what he did with the Doom Patrol.
Yeah. To be clear, he did not write the Challenger story in this book.
No, that was Christopher Cantwell, and I think I've read a couple things by Cantwell. They've been like one-offs, but kind of incomprehensible, and I think that was the point. But I feel like Culver could tie everything back together.
He's got a really kind of cynical, jaded attitude. I mean, if he really wants to motivate himself, he should be calling himself Christopher Canwell.
Yes.
That was a great joke. Everyone at home was cheering once again for my exceptional levels of comedy. You are welcome. Peasants, bow down before the master of hilarity.
Why start now?
This is just phase 1 in my 10-phase plan to become the Joker someday. Start off with bad jokes.
Yeah.
All right.
You're almost there. You're almost do part 1.
All right, Trinity Special issue 1. The main thing we'll talk about is the news story by Tom King and Daniel Semprere. What this actually is, though, in totality, is a reprinting of the backups from the last 3 issues of Wonder Woman. So you've got like the stuff where it's that she's being babysit. The last of which was the kangaroo race, which I think was just this month's issue, wasn't it?
It was. It was the last issue.
Yeah.
So.
It was very, very, very recent. So that's the first half of this book. And then we get to the news story, which is basically just this mirroring of kind of like after Diana had won her trials, the test to see if she could, deflect a bullet with Hippolyta shooting the gun. We see that mirrored in the future with Diana loading a gun and wanting to fire it, or not wanting to, but like, Lizzie being the one who has to prove herself and deflect it. And the idea being that both Diana and Hippolyta, as they're the ones loading the gun, are really trying to talk them out of this, because if they don't deflect it, then they're in a world of trouble.
Yeah.
So
that's it.
Yeah. It's basically, I think more than anything, it compares the motherhood of Diana and Hippolyta, but more importantly, I think it displays the mirror image of the determination of young Diana and young Lizzie, who are both like, no, I can do this. I'm ready to prove myself.
Knowing what Wonder Woman went through, knowing what Diana went through, she's a bit more hesitant. And then you look back at now Diana knows what Hippolyta was going through. Because what Hippolyta went through to become the queen, and it's just these things where you think you're this young, headstrong person and you know everything, but on the other side of that is someone who cares for you, that knows you're capable, but not that they want to prevent you, but they just want to make sure you're ready. And there's a line that Lizzie says about being older than Diana, right? Or Diana tells Lizzie that I was older than you were now, along those lines. And then Lizzie responds to her and is like, yeah, but then when I get to your point, I will be older and more wise, or I'll be younger and more wise than you were.
It's really confusing to say it out, but just to try and clarify what you just said there.
Yes.
She's saying that because she's already more advanced at an earlier age, that by the time she's Diana's age, she'll be even wiser than Diana is at this point. So she's saying that she's better and she'll always be a little bit better.
Right. And that's because, and I took that as sure, it seems like she's seeming snotty, right? But to me, that's also her telling Diana how good of a job she did.
Yeah.
So,
totally.
And it's also looking in the meta, narrative with Tom King and what this is saying about parenting, right? Is that to be a great parent, you got to prepare your kid. You can't just hold them back, right? And so just the idea that, Diana doesn't want her to become the next Wonder Woman, not because she doesn't want to be usurped, but because she doesn't want to lose her kid. And it all, for this small, was it 3-4 page story or more than that?
I mean, it's not a lot. It's maybe 6 pages, but
it was pretty resonating. It's a lot of pretty good storytelling.
It's 5 pages. It's 5 pages.
Okay.
And you don't, the story ends with a gun firing. You don't get to see the payoff to it, which I think is just a nice little clip. Because we know that they're going to deflect the bullet.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's just a reprinting of the first story with Trinity, which was the one that came out before the Wonder Woman run started. I think it was from issue 800 probably.
Yeah.
That just kind of like showed you like John and Damien waiting on the beach for her, and it was them getting into the caves, basically to get to the Sovereign. And I'm only bringing this up because it's actually very interesting reading this now that we've read 4 or 5 issues of Wonder Woman, because now we have better context for what she's here for, and she's here to hear the Sovereign story, specifically of her, right? She wants to hear her own story from the Sovereign's perspective. So this sets up why they're, because I think back in issue 3 or whatever it was, where we saw that we're in a jail cell and he was telling the story, I think we sat and talked about, why is she in a cell with him? And it was actually in this. She came to see him. It's not that she's locked in a cell with him or anything. It's just this.
Spaced.
Yeah. All of this had kind of left my brain. So it was kind of nice being reminded of this. I didn't read it fully, don't get me wrong. I sort of skimmed through it again and just sort of read the last couple pages. But
there are things now looking back at when he uses us, right, instead of me.
Yeah.
that are very curious going forward to with the Sovereign. And then his last line is, "This is the story about how your mother defeated me." But we know that this man lies, right? So like,
Yeah, I mean,
it adds this whole new sheen of storytelling to it.
Well, I think what's more important there is that he does always refer to the Sovereign himself as we, as us, because he always sees it as this lineage where he represents, one of the line. So it's very interesting as he uses the word. I think that's the first time I've ever heard him say something in first person like that.
Yeah.
The first time he's ever said me, singular. So I think it's very interesting to see, like, how maybe over the course of the story as he's battling Wonder Woman, where it maybe gets more personal to the point where he starts thinking of it that way.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm curious, but
and the other stuff that stuck out too from reading all the backups is how she refers to Damian and John as her brothers. And the way, not just like, how Bruce and Bruce and Clark refer to each other as brothers, but she, like, these are her actual big brothers. And so when she, gets them to do essentially these trials where John has to go through pain and Damian is in this, unwinnable battle, and she even tells the Sovereign, "I need to be quick because I have to go rescue my brothers." It adds to her character there too,
Yeah, I will critique the issue as a whole, though. I think it's kind of a weird proposition because it's an expensive book that is largely reprinted material of stuff that anyone who cares about Trinity has already read. Because, like, if you're reading Wonder Woman, then this has 5 new pages in it. If you're not reading Wonder Woman and you're tempted by this, then you go and buy Wonder Woman, perhaps. Maybe you buy the first trade when it comes out. You're going to get a lot of this material again, sort of sprinkled throughout that.
Yeah.
So I do think as a proposition, this special is really weird. Because it's not like it can't... Because all of it's pretty much backups in Wonder Woman itself, it's just kind of weird to me, because normally when you do this thing where they'll say, hey, we're going to reprint these 3 issues as a one-off special, it's usually to catch people up so they can jump straight into issue 4 or 5 or the new arc or whatever's coming. This doesn't really function like that. You still have to go back and read issue 1 through 5, so I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing, other than just an excuse to have a new cover to sell to collectors, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and there's a really nice Doc Shaner cover, and there's a really nice Garrett's cover. So, like,
okay, multiple covers to sell to collectors.
Yeah, but those are also incentive covers, right? So that's also them playing this with the comic stores, because the Garrett's is a 1 in 25 and the Shaner is a 1 in 50. So just to get one of those, the shop would have to order 50 of these that are kind of redundant. So,
well, that's why they charge people a fortune for those issues, because you're basically covering the price of ordering all those other issues to get that one.
Yeah, so, that said, that Tom King story with Semprere on the art was 5 pages, was very, very resonating and emotionally moving.
It was good for 5 pages, but it's still just 5 pages.
But it's not worth $1 a page. Right? It's not worth $1 a page. So
it's a bit scummy. Okay, I'm just going to call it what it is. It's a bit scummy. Maybe it's good as a teaser if you know someone who's not read any of it and you're like, hey, you interested in this maybe. But the funny thing is, though, is that the first half of it is the backup. So even just because they like that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to like the main Wonder Woman story. They might find that they don't like how that's written compared to the backups. I don't know. Like, I just don't know. All of it's just a bit weird to me as a proposition, but hey, we both read it, so.
Yeah. And I really love Lizzie as a character. She's just through that story and then rereading The Sovereign. She has a wit to her that I really like that makes her stand out. And she really, in comparison with Damian and John, who have this, we already know what their rapport is like. She fits in very well as this next generation, of the biological kids of them. And I'm still not even sold that Lizzie is the biological daughter of Diana. I'm still waiting for a thing.
Yeah, to be fair, you used that word. DC have not used that word. You threw in the word biological.
Well, because John and Damian are both, right? The biological sons of Batman.
Yeah, but Wonder Woman herself was made out of clay in a lot of interpretations, so she's not necessarily biological to Hippolyta. So
Right.
it would thematically make sense that her daughter would also be someone who's not biologically been created. So
Of course, of course. I'm just saying, like, she fits in with that generation, very, very well. So I'm curious to see when all is revealed where this all stands.
yeah, we're not going to rate it because we're not rating 5 pages. It's just not happening. So we'll move on. Batman Offworld issue 3, Jason Aaron writing with Doug Mankhe on the art. So yeah, this was another enjoyable issue, I thought. As much as the premise is weird, I think Aaron's writes a good comic, and it's I definitely enjoyed this more on these Action Comics issue that just hit this month.
I will say that I can't believe this is only issue 3, because it feels like the first 2 issues were so packed with story that it feels like we've been
dense.
at this for a while.
Yeah, it feels dense. Yeah.
But not in a way where like, oh, it's too much to read. There's a lot going on. There's a lot for Batman. He's gone through a whole lot, and it's the skill of Aaron to make this already feel like through 3 issues, all of that stuff has happened.
Yeah. So we find out that he tamed that wolf, because remember we ended that last issue with him tackling the wolf in the cave. Ione's here to rescue him, and he's like, I need to build a new suit. But we have to go back to the ship. We have to strike and take them down. It sort of sets up that there's a romantic sort of development between Bruce and Ione. She even tries to sort of talk him out of going after the ship. Like, hey, why don't we just go somewhere and live? And it's sort of funny because, like, she gets on his lap. They have a bit of a kissy kiss, and he basically just says, no, I still need to work on this. I'll be ready soon. And she gets upset. And what I liked about this is that it felt to me like this was playing off of the idea of, like, she's naive here for thinking for a second that he might give up anything to just go and be happy with her. Because, we've done this dance with Batman. Like, Selina was we're going to marry him. We've done the whole dance before, and she storms off and says, she better be, this place that you're in love with, this Gotham, must be the most magical place on earth, because, like, the fact that you're turning me down. And that was funny to me, because one, because Gotham is kind of a dump. But 2, because I'm like, like, this makes sense that someone who has just met Bruce and has fallen for him in some way wouldn't understand this history and this devotion that he has. So I really liked this, because it really felt like Bruce reacted the exact way that I think all of the audience will expect him to react when she makes this offer.
Look, I'm going to say Bruce is a stronger man than I have, because have a Tamaranian like that straddle. He's an iron will. That's all.
Okay, good point, Matt. Well spoken.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but also, she better be a worthy mistress, right? She's just pissed because you feel like Ione's not been turned down that often.
Oh,
right?
Probably not. Yeah, she probably gets what she wants most of the time. So Batman gets fired from her ship into the big ship, because obviously, remember, the big ship has the storm that's, like, made around it to hide it and stuff. He gets fired into the ship. We get a very action heavy issue with Batman and he's like sort of newly made bat suit fighting off the various aliens and whatnot, and it's all good stuff. There's a big full page 2-page spread of him and his outfit as he's basically got like a glove that lights up with electricity that he's sort of made to help fight. But Ione comes aboard with her ship and the dog and is like, okay, she's there to like evacuate all of the prisoners who want to leave. Like, this is Batman saving them. And Ione's very upset at having been turned down, because when Batman tries to say something meaningful to her, she's like, oh, is this the part where we exchange how we feel? And then she punches him in the face. So he's maybe upset her a little bit.
Just a bit.
But again, mildly funny, I'll say.
Yes. And we'll also love when she's trying to evacuate the ship, because we also get with the captain is the storm, the weather people that manage the storm are like, sir, we have all the troops that we need for the mining, what is it, the Black Sun Mining Company. We can't stand and fight. We'll have to pick up new ones. And the captain's like, no, we'll push ahead. So then she starts evacuating them. Batman starts beating the piss out of them, and they're losing numbers. But as one guy's trying to board her ship, she goes, you think I was going to forget? And shoots him right in the face. One of the people that she had issues with before. So I thought that was pretty funny as well.
Yeah, which obviously Batman, because there's another scene here where Batman tells the big alien
The
dog
wolf.
to not kill anything, and the dog it agrees, but has at least cut off or bit off someone's hand. So
You didn't say they couldn't. They had to have all their limbs. You just said don't kill them.
that's true. That's true. Technically,
Yeah.
he's following his orders. There's also really a nice couple panels where it goes to like the scrap heap, and like the punch bot is like,
Yep.
oh, he's back.
Batman has come back for me.
Yeah. So that was kind of sweet because that was a lot of heart in the second issue was the punchbot stuff. So yeah, the art here from Mankhe's typically very, very strong. The action, all the depinks, all that stuff, very well defined. Basically, Batman takes on the main alien dude with the horns because he wanted to fight one of his kind because that's the sort of alien that showed up on Earth. That's what he was here for. And he makes it very clear he's learned every weak point, every nerve, everything he can attack to finish his mission and be ready to go home because now he's prepared for this threat now. But when he's done, he's like, I don't feel finished. And he turns to Eoni and says, what do you know about this Black Sun mining company? Because this is when she's just saying goodbye. She's like, oh, I guess this is goodbye then. And he's like, no, what do you know about this company? And it's basically this idea that he can't help but get involved, that this corrupt regime is doing this. Like, as much as we've been focused on this big mining ship so far, they answer to a company. They answer to a higher power. And this
a Wayland Yutani, if you will.
If you will. And he's like, okay, tell me about this. It's the idea that he can't just leave this be. He has to take down the entire thing. And, we get a tease at the end of the villains that run the Black Sun mining company, which are these really creepy looking brothers who are like a little Cenobite, a little... I don't know what.
They're very creepy. They look like the Kaminoans from Star Wars, the cloners. Big long neck, but they also seem to have psychic powers because they make a guy essentially destroy his mind from the inside. So
I wonder if that's both brothers or just the small one, because he asked the small one to come in, and he's the one that whispers something in the guy's ear, which makes him his head around. Maybe it is both of them, I don't know. But my expectation is that their names here are Wrath and Whisper, and that the little one's Whisper, and that's his power, is that he can whisper something in your ear and make you go nuts.
Or maybe it's just poetic, because as Yes Brother well said, whether by wrath or whisper, it all ends the same.
Yeah, but they're bolded, so I kind of took that to mean he's say, or I guess she, is this a woman? I think this is a woman, actually.
I think that's a woman, the twins.
So it's a brother and sister rather than brother, sorry. But I think I took that to mean is the brother's name Whisper, and that's his power, and she's Wrath. And she looks stronger, so Wrath makes some sense.
Yeah.
So
all I know is they're very creepy. I do not like them.
Oh yeah, they're very creepy. So I mean, this was kind of like almost wrapping up a mini arc, but it's not really the end of the arc, though. It's just kind of the bridging to the larger part of it.
And just also with the part of Batman trading to beat that type of alien, right? It also wasn't just like... I like that in the context Aaron gives it of he had to know how to defeat this type of alien because they'll be back in Gotham, right? Like, that's where he ran into him. So if he can know how to get rid of these type, then he'll be able to protect Gotham better. So I like that it wasn't just him settling a score or any of that. It really is a knowledge-based type thing. And then here, because of that, him having to go back and do this, him realizing, like, there's always going to be something bigger. There's always going to be something for Batman to fight. And here it's the mining company, because we even get Ione when she goes down to that planet and she's talking to the locals. She's always like, yeah, I'd be upset too with how, Black Sun Mining Company has been treating you guys, so.
Yeah, it's not just the ship. They're actually, hurting the planets. They're hurting people. Yeah. And
so there's all through that. And then Batman essentially weaponizing the major predatory species on that alien's planet, this barbed wolf, and he brings it back with him almost as a as a mental game.
He talks about how like the wolf could have killed him because he was basically done fighting, but the wolf clearly saw something in his eyes that he should align with Batman because Batman will take him on more interesting hunts.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I'm going to keep that promise. I'm going to give him something to hunt.
So very, very fun sci-fi stuff going on with Batman, which I never thought that would be a great combo. But like this high alien sci-fi stuff, it's really hitting with Aaron here.
Yeah, obviously it's not billed as an Elseworld or anything like that, and I think technically it probably is in continuity, but it's the sort of thing where I'm always going to think of it as an Elseworld, because it's weird to me to think about the regular Batman as having gone and done this, but as a story on its own, I'm having fun with it.
Yeah, he got shot from a spaceship to another spaceship. Like that's not something Bruce typically does.
Yes, I mean, I'm assuming there was protective gear involved, but
Yeah, of course, but still.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun for him befriending a wolf on top of everything too. To me that is kind of very Batman. But so to put it on an alien planet and him earn the respect of this massive predator, because at the end of the day, it's almost like Batman's the biggest predator out there, because he's hunting crime and all those that all the people that want to do evil. It's so it's delightfully still Batman while doing something new.
Yeah, well, I'm having fun with it. So, what you rating Batman Off-World?
I'm gonna give this a solid 8.
Yeah, I find it hard to disagree with that number. It's a really good time without being, my definitive Batman or anything like that. So, yeah, cool. She also mentioned there's a Joker Year 1 preview at the end of all the books this week.
Yeah, cool.
That's in our future, Matt, because that's not a mini. Wow. That's Batman 142.
Bom, bom.
So we'll see how that goes. But very good. So one last book to talk about. Every month on Patreon, you can make myself or Connor read a book at a higher tier, if Connor's ever here, that is, I suppose. But I'm going to talk about American Vampire Second Cycle Issue 4, my long trip reading the American Vampire Saga, if you will. So, yeah, I mean, obviously I've been really enjoying Second Cycle, especially since I hadn't read it before, so it's all been new to me. The last issue ended with the Grey Trader effectively unleashing this tornado around Pearl's farm and threatening all the vampires she's concealing inside the building. So this issue starts with a little flashback to 1811, where the Grey Trader is attacking seemingly a Native American, and the guy's pleading for his life, saying, "Hey, I betrayed all my people. Just go get the thing that I told you about." And he's like, "I don't need it yet. I don't need it for about another 150 years," which obviously puts it up to about the 1960s, and seemingly consumes the guy. So it's just a tease for stuff to come, but right away, we're back into the tornado stuff, and this issue is largely this big, gigantic action scene that is really thrilling. You've got Albuquerque on art here just going nuts with all this stuff, where Pearl's running back to the house to try and get the kids. She gets them to go into the cellar and try and barricade themselves, and then these winged vampire demons that the Grey Trader controls has summoned in. And I can only describe these things as almost featureless bodies with wings, but the one thing they do have is on their face is a vertical mouth.
Oof, that's creepy.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a little vagina-esque, right? Just inherently, it's a vertical mouth. So these things that pick up her truck and or drop it onto the land and whatever. And this is where Skinner speeds in on a motorbike and kind of helps save the day, and Pearl gets on the back of the bike, and they're driving around, and she's like, "Oh, I thought you abandoned us." And he's like, "No, I was just looking for another vehicle. I had that crappy car. I wanted something proper." He says, "You were always a biker bitch at heart anyhow," is a line from Skinner here. But, she starts getting scared because the tornado's starting to hit the house, and the other vampires are inside the house. So she's like, "No, keep going, Skinner. We have to lure it away from them. We have to try and draw the attention of the Grey Trader, of the tornado, of everything." Because keep in mind, this is not a natural tornado. This is something the Grey Trader's doing. We have to try and lure them away. So she's firing shotgun blasts back at it. It's coming after them. And eventually the bike stops, and he's like, "Wait, why is the bike stopped? I filled it up. It should be good." And it turns out that Pearl actually punctured the tank on the bike, and there's a trail of gasoline going back to the tornado, and she flicks open a lighter, throws it onto the ground, and we get this glorious like full page of like a tornado on fire, which it's kind of glorious. It's kind of simplistic in terms of the art, because it's just kind of lots of like yellow and orange streaks, really. But then there's a panel at the bottom where you can see sort of those demons on fire inside of it. All very good. It's all very apocalyptic. It really feels like a big action set piece that the entire issue's been building up to that point. They go in and get the vampire kids and go run away from them. In fact, just as they're leaving, luckily, Cal and the Elvis dude, who was like doing the shows before, show up in a car, which, for the record, the side of the car is a big guitar. In fact, Cal yells out, "Come on, get into the guitar," when he shows up. So this is just Scott Snyder once again showing his like Elvis fetish, I think, more than anything else. He loves doing this rock and roll stuff, particularly from this kind of era. But they all jump in the car and they drive away, and it's just this full page almost of just the car driving with nothing but fire behind it. And then there's this little panel at the bottom where it's the silhouette of the Grey Trader inside the tornado, inside the fire. It really, really paints it as a... I can only describe it as like just imagine like Terminator or Terminator 2, when they just get away from the T-1000 and they're just driving away from the fire. But the movie makes a point of reminding you the T-1000's still in there. He's still okay. He's still going to be coming. Like, this isn't like a win. This is just a delay until he gets to you later. So as far as building this suspense of like they've narrowly just got away and no more from this super dangerous threat that they have no idea how to like fight back against at the end of a thrilling set piece. But just to remind you, he's still coming. Like, this was not a victory by any means. They just got away. And in terms of that, this first 2/3 of the issue completely nails that. It completely nails the excitement. It completely nails the dread of this thing still coming after them. All very good. Which kind of just leaves the back third of the issue to kind of set up and calm down and establish kind of where we might be going next. They take refuge at some basically vampires that have helped out Pearl before with taking in some of the kids. They live in a swamp in Arkansas. There's some alligators and stuff. And they're basically deciding what to do next. Like, there's only so many VM locations left. There's one near Cape Canaveral where the space program is, and Skinner cracks a joke about vampires in space. Oh, that sounds great. Yeah. But yeah, the build up here at the end of the issue is that Pearl goes to talk to Skinner in another room, and the art here is gorgeous. It's got that kind of like, because the rest of the issues have all been these bright oranges and reds, and it's all been very hot. Whereas here it's a lot more subdued. I wouldn't say it's cold necessarily. It's still slightly on the... I'll say it's more neutral, because it doesn't look cold. I'll just say that. But it's like the classic kind of art of like the shadow of someone as they open the door. So you've got like the beam of light on the floor, but then the shadow of the person. And the shadow and lights are kind of hitting Skinner lying on his bed. But it's Pearl coming in and saying, hey, now that things have calmed down, I want to talk to you and ask why you came back. I feel like you had a reason to come back. And Skinner, being Skinner, he can't just actually have a conversation about why he wants to talk to her or what he wanted to show her. He just sort of like says, hey, why don't you come in the bed and I'll show you. And she's like, fine, she's going to make sex jokes. I'm done. And she's like, good night. And she closes the door. And the final page reveals that he does have something he actually does want to show her, and he takes off his shirt, and it's the bite marks for when the Grey Trader bit him on the shoulder. And there's like, veins coming from them, like something spreading. Like maybe the Grey Trader's going to like convert him, or he's turning into one of the Grey Trader's demons or something. But it feels like we're at the beginning of the end of Skinner's story, that maybe this might lead to his demise. Which feels like a big deal. It feels like we are building up to some big climax of this entire saga, because Skinner's been this linchpin for the entire thing since the very start of the story. And this feels like it might be the start of the end. And he does look concerned, and it kind of feels like, maybe we do feel a little bit bad for him, even though he is a prick, even though he does all these bad things.
Well, I mean, at what point, what number issue is this that we sent with Skinner? It's been a lot of time. So
it's definitely very a conflicted feelings kind of thing.
Yeah.
At the end. But yeah, there's also worry about whatever was happening down in hell that Skinner saw and whatnot. But this is the big thing, is that he got bit, and the bite is not went away, and it's showing signs of some kind of infection, probably evil from the Grey Trader or something like that. But I think it's a really good cliffhanger for the issue, especially since, because the last issue ended with a big action cliffhanger, and then this issue paid it off by having 2/3 of the issue be the big action scene that it was promising, and making it thrilling, and like I said, still doing this thing where it's like, no, the Grey Trader's still coming at the end. You just got lucky this time. The end of the issue goes for a quieter cliffhanger. This issue goes for like, okay, we did all the bombastic stuff, so we're going to like calm it down, and we're going to do this more quiet thing, which makes sense thematically because this is something that Skinner's not telling anyone. He's keeping it a secret to himself. So he's doing this on his own. So the cliffhanger of this reveal should feel smaller because it is more personal for now, at least. So, I think as far as the craft of comic book writing goes, I think it was really smartly done in this issue. And leaves me excited for whatever the next issue is going to bring. So, 9 out of 10, honestly, for this issue. I think it's been a strong series so far, this second cycle, but I think this is up there with the best. Admittedly, it's only issue 4, so it's like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember which one I praised before, if it was the last one or the one before, but it's been pretty strong overall. So there you go. That's American Vampire second cycle issue 4. And like I said, that's a Patreon thing. It's an expensive tier, admittedly, but if there is something you specifically want to make me read once a month, or just as a one-off thing, you can do that over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. But anyway, that'll take us on to the final part of the show, which is picking our favourite stuff of the week, favourite panel/moment, favourite cover, and of course, favourite art and top 5 books. So, Matt, what is your panel/moment of the week?
Let's see, Batman Offworld, seeing Punchbot show back up. That was a nice. And then there wasn't too many in World's Finest. Beast World does have a ton as well. Do I go with something sentimental or something that made me go hell yeah? Actually, I think I'll do the Dark Raven reveal where it's it's kind of the epilogue and everything's
at the end. Yeah.
At the end, it's very dark and it's Raven going, "I'm in here," very quietly, and the only person that knows is Dark Raven. That was pretty moody, so I'll go with that one.
Yeah, I think Beast World seems like the obvious place to go to pick a moment. I do think just to be, because I really liked Waller revealing the Hall of Order. I think that's a good big moment. I think the moment I'm probably going to pick is the moment where Raven tells them all that they shouldn't be killing the spores because Gar's still kind of inside them, and they all have this oh shit moment as they're holding dead spores in their hand. I think that's probably my pick, although I was almost going to pick something from Offworld. I was almost going to pick the moment where he tries to like convince Batman to just sort of give up and go and like be with her, and her realization that was very futile with his react. I think that sequence was really good.
Yeah.
In Offworld, but I'll go with the oh no, we shouldn't kill the spores moment in Beast World. All right, cover of the week. I didn't really have a chance to look at them yet. You have one at the ready?
Well, no, there's a couple that I do want to talk about. So while you look, I'll do that. There's a couple on Titans Beast World that I just want to spotlight because I want to know what they're doing with these covers right now. There's this trend of doing these kind of digitally, like heavily. They look like CG, and I don't know who's asking for these. And I don't want to kill the artist on them, but they're just not my thing. But there is a Mike Deodato cover that's got Garo on there. I'm trying to wait for it to load the video with the Flash. It's proper horror movie stuff. So that looks good. But my pick is going to be one of the Trinity covers. That was an incentive. And I'm going to go with the Doc Shaner. It's got Trinity on the... she's sitting on like this column with her name on it. and there's a statue of Hippolyta behind her and Diana, and those are the two statues, but she's sitting on there, and there's like this sunset going on behind her, and so just the color gradient is working. She's sitting there kind of impishly with a smile on her face, and it's Doc Shaner doing what Doc Shaner does best. So,
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think for me, the Jimenez one on Trinity is good. I think I'm probably going to go with the Gerald Perel variant for World's Finest. As much as I wasn't super into that issue, I do like that cover. There's kind of a very blotty, like, painting style. It's just Batman and Superman fighting, basically, but it just looks really good.
yeah,
I think that's my pick for this week. But obviously, it tends to be less choices on an annual heavy week for whatever reason. But all right, best art.
I have to go to Beast World. Even though it's Reis and Myers, and then with a little Pansica, it's pretty solid.
They blend well. I think the art's very good, and I think that's my pick as well. I think there's just not enough of Fornes in the World's Finest to give it to that, and there's not enough Semprere in the Trinity special to give it to that. Doug Mankey's art is very good, I will say, but I do think Beast World still wins.
But yeah, to me, it just edges out Off-World because how much I like Lucas Meyer, and how well his Titans designs fit in with Reis's stuff. So, they're both kind of elevated house style, but they're both very, very, very elevated.
Yeah. All right, top 5, well, or how many you read, I suppose.
Are we ranking Trinity?
Honestly,
because
no.
We didn't.
I don't think you can. I think there's just too little of it is actually new material. I think you just have to go with everything else.
Gotcha. So for me, number 1 is going to be Titans Beast War. 2 is going to be Off-World, and 3 is going to be World's Finest.
Beast War? I don't remember reading Beast War.
Beast World. I am sorry.
Yeah, my number 1 is Beast World. My number 2 is Batman Off-World. My number 3 is Batman and Robin Annual, and number 4 is World's Finest Annual. So yeah, not an amazing week because it's a weird week 5, just the way it works sometimes. But I will tell you now though what is coming next week from DC Comics, hopefully with brighter things ahead. So we have Batman 142, which is the aforementioned start of Joker Year 1.
Fart noise.
Everyone's waiting in anticipation. We also have Poison Ivy. At 19, we got Shazam issue 8. We have Birds of Prey issue 6. Fire and Ice, Welcome to Smallville issue 6. There's Red Hood The Hill issue 0, which I believe is a reprint of some stuff before issue 1 kicks off soon. Suicide Squad, Kill the Arkham Asylum. I was going to say Kill the Arkham Asylum. Kill Arkham Asylum issue 1. We have Kneel Before Zod issue 2. Superman 78, The Metal Curtain issue 4. We have DC's How to Lose a Guy Gardner in 10 Days issue 1. That's the $10 Valentine's anthology book, which, we don't tend to do those $10 books anymore because they're a bit of a chore and tends to just be a lot of shorts that don't have much to really discuss. So I'm not going to even promise to even try and read that, but the title's funny. I'll give them the title.
The title's very good. So
yeah. Other than that, though, there's a couple of Scooby-Doo books. You got Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries issue 2 and Scooby-Doo Where Are You 126. So yeah, let's keep going strong. Kids are buying those Scooby-Doo books.
Yeah,
very good. Always fun.
So just spoiler, I already know that my cover for next week's going to be an Ivy because there's some top tier Ivy covers next week.
Well, there's no need to spoil it, and it's fine.
I'm just telling you guys, they're. If I could get them all physically, I would. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay. I'm looking at them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think there's that many great ones, but I mean,
there's at least 3.
I'm sure you'll fight me. When the time comes.
3.
All right, that's the show, everyone. It's been a weird week 5. I always say that in week 5s, but it's always weird. So we'll be back to regular monthly stuff next week. Let us know what you thought of this week's books in the comments. Of course, you can support us by simply hitting the like button on YouTube or rating the podcast 5 stars on your podcast app of choice. And like I said, patreon.com/MailFestTV is where you can financially support us and help keep the show going. But thank you very much for joining us. We do always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.